What's up, y'all? Keith Dykes here with W.K.D. Construction. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, thanks for stopping by. You can always hit that subscribe button, man, and come back. Check us out all the time. So let's go build something.
On today's video, we are going to lay out the house. We're going to lay out the foundation. We're going to set up some batter boards, run some strings, paint some lines, dig some footings, and get ready to put this from paper to reality. So if you're not sure how that process happens, well, watch this and I'll show you. It's not a hard thing. It's not really technical. They can get technical with corners. The more corners you have, the bigger the house is, the bigger the footprint is, definitely it can be more challenging, but basically it all boils down to a rectangle. If you can make a rectangle out of all this crap, out of all these corners, make that square, everything will fall into place, I promise. So let's go. We are here, front of the barn. Got my little hoe, and I had to go over to the Melton Farm project, pick it up, bring it over here, because we are fixing to start digging the footings here on my house, my new house that is going to be our new project. We're gonna make a good series on that, and it will be the Dykes the Dykes home project or something. I don't know, I'll name it something. We're not on a farm, so I'll name it something. All the dozer work is done, so we've got a clean slate. We have a canvas ready to come alive. We gotta get a few tools out. We're gonna first start with batter boards, get some strings, lay everything out for our footing. I am going to be using a new product for the forms. I have never used this type of form. It is a styrofoam form. It is easy form, I believe is what it's called. It's for a monolithic slab, which a monolithic slab is you're kind of pouring the sides and the slab all at the same time. It is styrofoam. I did want it insulated because we're going to be installing radiant heat into the slab of my home. And being that the forms are insulated, we got a thermal break between the outside and the slab. That way it's not going to suck the cold temperatures in and make the concrete temperature drop after, once it gets heated. Closer to the wall, if you didn't have that insulation, real close to the wall, in 2 or 3, 4 feet would be really cold. So now that it's insulated, that heat will transfer all the way out to the outer edge of the wall, creating a more even heat in the slab. With this system, it does not sit on a concrete footing. It sits on a limestone footing. You're thinking, I don't know about that, Bill. I'm here to tell you it works. I've been installing superior walls, or been having superior walls, foundations, basement foundations set for a long time, for many years, 15, 16, 17 years, and they set on limestone. And I'm here to tell you that I almost rather it set on a limestone footing than a solid concrete footing. I think it gives you a little more cushion as a whole unit. You know, the house kind of move it as one solid piece versus being bonded to concrete, and this side moves, and it breaks. So I do like the limestone as a footing. This limestone is a number 7 limestone, which is 3/8 to 1/2 inch sizing. So there are different tables that can show you illustrations of the weight load, the weight capacity load of limestone versus a standard concrete footing. You know, you get, our footing is probably going to be close to 3 feet wide, about 6 inches deep. We will compact it with a compactor, and you take all those point loads, I guess, where the concrete actually sets, and it's dispersed out over a wider footing versus just setting on a concrete footing that's 14 inches wide. So there are some cool tables. I'll try to find some examples of that and put them in the link. So I'll put them in the comments or underneath the comments or in the description. I'll put them under the description, and that way you can kind of see those and see what I'm talking about. I'm not too good on the technical aspect of it, all the engineering stuff, but it does work, and I've been using them, the limestone footing, for years. I've even taken 2 stories of superior walls, which are concrete walls, and stack them on top of each other, and I have not had one callback, no issues, no settling issues. It's been great, so we're gonna do it. The footing itself will be deeper than 6 inches. The gravel when we put into the footing will basically be 6 inches thick. Will probably be a foot to 14, well, no, probably 12 inches deep, probably somewhere in that area. You could go deeper. I don't have a frost heave problem here in where I live in Tennessee. I mean, last year we had sub-zero temperatures, and the freezing depth maybe 4 inches. 4 inches freeze depth is very rare for our area, so 12 to 14 inches is plenty. And like I said, in my area, I know up north, I mean, they go deep, so, but it is not a factor here in my area, in my region, in northwest Tennessee. So little interjection right here. The mono slab easy forms are a frost protected shallow footing. We'll get into that on our next video when we do set the forms, but they are designed for frost heave in really rocky climates like Colorado, Utah, kind of Wyoming and all that stuff, in that area where I guess it's hard to dig real deep, but it gets really cold. So these are designed specific kind of for that region, and it will work perfectly in my region. Like I said, my frost depth is 4 inches is probably pretty deep for us, but it doesn't really matter since we've got insulated concrete forms, and they are R55. So, and that's a 16 inch. The 24 can even get wider than that. But we'll get real deep into it on the next on the next video where we set the forms. All right, so I'm wanting to I'm wanting to keep the barn and the house in the same plane. I want to keep the front of the barn and the front of the house not necessarily in line, but I want to keep it running parallel, you know, with the barn. That way we don't get it off. And the easiest way I think we can do it, you can pull a string, but the string would be 200 feet long, and that long the wind is a factor, of course. Starts sagging and stuff, which you don't really have to matter, but wind is a big variable. It's kind of breezy. So I got the laser, I set it up. Of course, the dot down there is going to be 1 inch big. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to plumb down. When I find the center of it, I'll plumb down and mark it, spray some paint on the ground, and then probably just drive a rod or a concrete stake or something in there to mark That way I have a bearing of where the front of the house needs to be. And it's kind of dark. I wanted to come out here this evening. That way, if it's bright, tomorrow, then when we start, you're not going to be able to see the dot at 200 feet from here. So let's do it. So I got the laser set up. I measured to the line 4.5 inches. Grab my paints up. And then I came down here. Of course, you got the laser, measured 4.5 there. Now I've got a straight point from the whole front of the building that I can find the front, or a line to keep everything straight. Now I'm just going to come over here and find the dot. I'll plumb down with the level and just kind of spray it, and then we'll have a reference point. That line, that dot is like an inch wide. That's pretty close right there. So now we are ready to actually have a location of the front wall. Well, in the morning when the guys get here, we'll already have the position set of the front of the house. So being that the barn is already here, we used it to position the house. A lot of times when we do get on a blank job site, I'll have to have the client there, and we do try to position it. But it made it easy now since the barn is here and we can just go off of it. A lot of times it really doesn't matter. We just we'll get a string out and get the client there, and we'll just eyeball it. But we're not really having to go off of anything most of the time because it's usually on some acreage. So it doesn't matter, but I wanted to make sure, my wife really wanted to make sure that everything is in line. So in relation to the angle of the barn. So like when we built the barn, we just kind of pulled a string and we started building. So now we don't want the house to be different than the barn. All right, y'all, it is morning number one. We are fixing to get the footings laid out, the house laid out, and start digging the footings. This is kind of what we got going on right here. So I did not order the plans because we made quite a few modifications. I have SketchUp Pro, so I was able to make modifications myself and be able to draw it and show all the dimensions, and then I can tweak it from there. So that's kind of what we're doing. I didn't want to spend the money for the plans, and that way I could just draw them myself. That's a beauty about the SketchUp Pro. And in SketchUp you can of course draw everything, and then you can send it to layout, which then you can put your dimensions on it. You know, I got diagonals, I've got everything I need to put this foundation together. So but we're, like I said, we're getting ready to set up batter boards, which are just kind of a hodgepodge of 2x4s. That way you can run some strings. That way we can get the outline of the house laid out onto the ground. Then we'll remove, after we get the strings pulled, we'll remove the strings and then start digging. We'll paint the line on the ground where the string's at, and then we can start digging. For those of you all that may have a little trouble, because this house is, you know, it's got several ins and outs, and I'm going to show you the easiest way to do batter boards on a house kind of like this that's really cut up. So I got to break in here real quick again. I'm going to do a members only video and really break down how I lay out the house on paper, up close and personal, tell you all my secrets. Just a really easy way that I can just sit there and explain it to you one-on-one. So if you'd like that, I'll put a link right here and you can go check out that video. What I do is I find a rectangle out of the whole house. So I'm gonna take the rectangle, if I can do it without the wind blowing. I'm gonna take this rectangle, I'm gonna take the front of the house here, the back of the house here. I will run a string there, a string here. You run those parallel. That's your first thing. You have 2 strings parallel, then you're good. You're golden from there. So I will run, like I said, I'll run this string. We'll run this string long. I'll know where this point is. I've got kind of a point set where I want it to. We'll set this one, and then we can measure. Of course, measure from here to here. Find this one, and then I can actually do a diagonal, and we will find our other corner point, or this point, either one, or this point, you know. So we've got different points where we can measure to from those parallel lines. So everything starts from a set of parallel lines, no matter the complication, no matter the technicalness of your foundation. Because in my experience, I have had customers like, man, I want you to do it, but I'm gonna go ahead and do the foundation. Then you can come, you know, by that time, maybe you're ready. You can start framing on it. I did that once. The foundation was horrible. It was out 2 inches here. I mean, it was bad. So after that, nope. I'm gonna do my own foundations. I'm gonna lay everything out. I'm gonna put those in, and then I will frame. So it's hard to rely on somebody else. That's maybe one of my downfalls is I need to do everything. I need to do everything myself. That's why it kind of does take our projects a little longer, because I don't have 52 people working on my job site. So before I started digging, I took the transit, set it up, kind of got a rough grade of kind of where I want everything to be. Now I've got the top of my form set, grade, the top of my gravel for my footing, and then the bottom of my ditch, my footing. So we're going to set the first line of the house. Of course, last night I came out and lasered up and give us a reference point to start measuring from. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to set this first batter board. I've got basically a dot. I know how far I want it from the driveway to the front corner of this house. So we're going to run this front edge of the house. Is it going to be stable enough? Right? Yeah, it might be alright. It's pretty stiff. I mean, if it's a little lower, it's fine. It'll give you something to go off of. Too low, it's fine. Set your board to where it needs to be. procedure is set it to your stake.
Yeah, hang on. Down a little. Good. Up, barely. There you go.
Pull your string past, hold it tight. Yep, pull the hell out of it. Back off a little bit. Oop. Oop, right there. You good? Yeah. Mark your string. Mark your string. So now the front of the house is established, and now we'll just measure back 42 feet 3 and find the back of it. A lot of times when you're trying to find the parallel string, it's kind of hard. So I set my laser up because it's got a 90-degree feature on it, and I just kind of set it up in line with this string, and now a 90-degree back there. That way I'm not going to probably not going to use it. We will use the cross measurement check to make sure, but I'm just wanting to kind of get this pretty close. That way my batter board, you know, I'm not measuring out a square 4 feet. You can do that, especially on you get into 40, 50, 60 feet. So I just set up my laser. That gives me just a rough location point for that batter board.
Up, yep, down just barely. Yep.
Probably gonna put some bracing on that one. And we are setting the batter boards to the top of the forms. These forms are new. I've never used them. They are styrofoam because I want the slab insulated. It is supposed to speed up the process. The contractor I talked to that I bought them from, he started using them. He was basically his trade was a block layer, so he's kind of started using these as their foundation. It is easy form, mono slab, monolithic pour. So I'm pretty excited about using them. Like I said, they do set on a gravel footing, the limestone footing, and so that kind of saves me some money there versus trying to pour footing, get block laid. So you're not out that whole money of footing, rebar, blocks, and then you're gonna have to come back and insulate the block anyway. So this kind of cuts everything down to one step. Hopefully hopefully it really works, and we'll be able to use this more often. So now that I've got my point set on my square on my laser, I know that my batter board's 4 feet from there. So we set that batter board at 4 feet, and now we can kind of measure and keep everything a little more accurate. 42'3" on that batter board.
Yeah, I already got it marked.
You pull the Dykes.
Yeah. Yep. 42.3. Yeah.
42'3". 42'3".
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go down there, measure 42'3", set another, well, we'll set a whole corner down there on that side, so get up 2 pretty good long pieces. Well, my dozer guy got a little on the deep side over here, which is fine. Like right now I've got about a foot up above grade here, and then we're gonna have, well, the block is 16 inches, so in the middle I've got 8 inches of form sticking up above grade. Over here it drops down to 12, so of course that's gonna have me a little more styrofoam exposed. We'll just have to go a little deeper with the footing and have a little more gravel on this end, which is perfectly fine. We'll just do that just to get it to about, I'll probably go with a 12 to 14 inches depth on my frost line. Of course we're gonna have, which it may not really matter a whole lot, because I am gonna have some fill up against the house, so that'll actually add some frost depth to the bottom of the footing. So we may just let it ride, and like I said, we will put probably another foot worth of dirt up there anyhow, so we'll see. What? Need a little wind. All right, so now we've got our parallel lines established. Then we know where that front corner is going to start. So I've measured over to this corner. We've kind of located the front edge. Steve's at a midpoint, so we are going to measure from that midpoint, because I've got a diagonal from that midpoint to this corner. So what you need to do is, we've got a line, or actually we've got a board. That board is set right in line with the string, so it is running parallel. So all we need to do is, Steve's over there, he's going to burn a foot, and then we will run our tape at a diagonal, and then just slide it to where it meets, those two numbers meet, or that our number meets that, and it should be right on. So 60 foot 6 7/8. Just take your tape, just slide it, pivot it to where that number meets on this line. So 60, mine is 60 foot 6 7/8. So 60 foot 6 7/8. That should be our location for this string. Quarter inch? Which way? That way? So now that we have this corner established, we measured back over here 79 foot 2. then we plumbed up at 79 foot 2. It plumbed up, and then I ran a string from up there to back there. So now we'll go ahead and we'll find this corner and go ahead and diagonal it back to that midpoint, and we should be pretty good. And if not, we will adjust accordingly. So we're just plumbing down to find us the parallel in line with that string. That way we can kind of measure off the ground. It's hard to hold your tape up off the ground 12, 13, whatever, 14 inches and try to diagonal. So we're setting it on the ground. That way our tape's a little more accurate. No, just plumb down right there and mark that edge. Whatever side is on the string, mark that, plumb that edge.
This side's on the string.
Huh?
This side is to the string.
Okay.
So just mark this.
Plumb down, find it where it meets on the corner there. Right on the edge. Alright, so now I'm going to do a diagonal from here to here. So I got my handy. I know I told y'all this before. If you don't have one, if you don't have it, you need to get it. The Construction Master Pro app. But I've got 37 feet 2-inch rise, 42 feet 3-inch run. Diagonally will be 56 feet 3 1/4 inches. We're going to burn a foot, huh? Burn a foot. What?
Oh, you're just finding the edge on that one mark, right?
Well, we're supposed to be right. We're gonna line up. So we need 56. We need 57 feet 3 1/4 if Steve burns a foot.
57,
3 1/4. Where's your mark? Where's your mark? Go to your mark. 2 1/4. So something is wrong. Something's wrong. So that's why we check it. So we did away with the halfway mark, and we just measured diagonally from corner to corner, and we are right on the money. So now we did have to adjust it just a little bit. So now we've got our rectangle determined, and then we've got this whole side run down here. So everything else, we don't necessarily have to do batter boards on every single corner. You can if you want to, but it's really not necessary. Now that you have a rectangle to start off of and one whole side, we can then plumb down on the ground, measure over, and mark everything on the ground for our footing, and then take the strings down, and we'll leave our batter board set, and then we can just reapply them again later on. So you don't necessarily have to do every single corner if you don't have to, because it's hard to dig around once you got a bunch of batter boards. So now, like I said, it's easy. You can just kind of measure your dimensions, drive a stake, put your string, paint your line.
Yep.
Well, all of the lines have been painted. Got the little hoe, and we're about ready to start digging. This footing is going to be a little wider than normal, probably 30 inches, 32 inches, somewhere in that area. That way I can allow for the 16-inch form and then the concrete to set on the rock as well. So when I dig, I'm going to set probably 3/4 of the bucket to the outside of the line, dig it, and then I'll have to kind of do a double pass once we get it to grade. So that way, almost 2 buckets. I don't have a 36-inch bucket. I got a 24-inch bucket. So we'll just have to make do as I make my way around the house. Brr, it is cool. So you can see we have started digging the footings. Like I said, they're going to be about 32, 33, sometimes some cases are about around approximately 3 feet wide. We're going to have about 6 to 8 inches of gravel, the limestone, which will be compacted in there, and then the form itself will be sticking above the ground, above grade. Ideally, on most of it will be about 8 inches, and then we're going to have a brick ledge formed into the slab itself too. But yeah, we should have most of it dug tomorrow. I think we should probably have all of it dug tomorrow, and then we start putting some rock in there probably on Wednesday. So I don't know, we might be able to be stacking some forms on either tomorrow evening or a Wednesday. Well, all the footing on the house part is done. We're going to wait to do the garage and the porches, of course, after we get all this set and poured. So, but I think now we are going to get the strings back out, and we'll string everything, put it back up on the batter board, and make sure that all of my footings are going to make sure they I dug them correctly, and that the forms will fit inside where I've dug. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to set up the strings again, and then we may set up a few more batter boards because I'm going to we will set the forms to the string. So I will probably go ahead now. I'll have to move some dirt, but we will probably go ahead and set a few more corners and really get it dialed in. That way we can have something to go by when we set these styrofoam forms. You saw us cross measuring. We went ahead and put up our strings again, checked everything, made sure it was all good. The main part of the house is square. The back part of the house we did have to adjust just a little bit. We did throw up some batter boards back there, and now we are over here on this corner. We're just measuring, checking out, because I want to make sure before I put gravel in that I don't have to widen the ditch. So we're going back and checking every wall and make sure that I've got at least 16 inches of room to set the form in. And so we're just, like I said, we're just going through here, measuring every wall, plumbing down, and making sure we have enough room. And then if we don't, we've been having to shave, you know, an inch or something like that here and there. So, but it's no big deal. So we'll get it all measured, put back together, and then in the morning I've got some drain tile. We're going to put some drain tile on the outside perimeter, which will be underneath the form. We'll dig a ditch probably down there out, because if you got a ditch and you fill it up with rock, it's going to fill up with water. So we need to get that water out of here. So I'm going to have a drain, not necessarily around the entire perimeter, most of it, because a lot of it will have porches on it, but we are going to drain some of it. That way water does get in there, it does have a place to go. But in the morning, I've sent Brent this morning. He picked up some materials, and one of those materials are a 4-inch drain, corrugated drain pipe slotted. We are going to probably run the majority of the perimeter, not the entire thing, and put the drain in there, put a filter fabric over top of it, and then we'll put our limestone in there about 6 to 8 inches. And then he also picked up a plate compactor from Service Rentals, so we will start getting the gravel in there. After the drain, we'll get the gravel in there and compact it and get it nice and firm, set, and we'll be ready to set some of these concrete forms. If you notice, we don't have no dirt piles. I mean, I got a dirt pile way over there. I cannot stand it all up around the house. It's just a pain to work around, and it rains, it gets muddy. So before we got finished today, then I got on the backhoe and moved all the dirt out away, just because it's a pain in the butt. I don't like working around. I don't like working around all them piles of dirt. I'm gonna give you a couple good tips too. Use a steel tape measure as much as possible. Do not use a vinyl tape measure. They stretch a whole lot, so don't use them. I know you can get some of the bigger spools. If you're gonna get a bigger spool, this Milwaukee, it is a fiberglass tape. You can't, I mean, it doesn't stretch. It's really stiff. Like I said, the more inexpensive tape measures, 100 foot, 200 foot, don't get a vinyl, because I mean, you can stretch that thing an inch and a half. So use a steel tape as much as possible, and if you have to use a long one, use a fiberglass tape. And to have accurate measurements, you need to measure on a level plane. That's why when I set all my batter boards, I try to set them all level. That way when we start pulling diagonal measurements, if you're out of skew, you know what I mean? If you're not level and you start pulling a tape measure, and a lot of times, like, I'll have Steve or Brent or Jimmy or whatever, if we're stretched out 80, 90 feet, I usually try to get people and hold up the tape measure as much as possible. That way we can keep everything on that plane. Because if you get out of skew, you know what I mean? If your batter board back there is 4 inches lower than it is up here, you're kind of tilted, and your measurement can be, it will be off. So as much as possible, keep everything level. All right, y'all, that's it. That was my video on how to lay out a footer like a pro. Once again, I'm Keith Dykes. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great day.